Hi, my name is Jocelyn Lowens, and today we are taking a look at reading comprehension interventions. Now, at the elementary school level, one of the biggest concerns when a student is having difficulty with reading comprehension is decoding. Decoding is our ability to read a word and understand that it's a word and understand what that word is. So we need to make sure that students are able to do that, because if they are struggling with their decoding, they will be using so much of their brain power to decode words that there will be no bandwidth left for a student to actually pull meaning out of those words and comprehend what the text is saying. If you spend all of your brain power reading a difficult text and it just takes everything you have to figure out what most of the words mean, it's going to be really hard to then put that together. And that's what a lot of students are facing. So what we want to do is figure out, okay, where are the gaps in their decoding and how do we fill that? And one of my favorite intervention strategies is the Orton Gillingham. Their 3-part drill paired with the vowel intensive as needed. And we're going to be taking a look at that today. And if we have time, we might be adding in a little something else. So to begin with, any intervention strategy that you use, it is best to assess the student. I would begin with letter recognition. Can students identify letters? If I hold this up, do they know that this is a B? Are they aware that this is B, the letter B? Next, if I say B, are they able to tell me that B says B? So I want to assess whether or not they have strong letter recognition, both upper and lowercase. And are students able to connect the sound, the phoneme, to the letter, the grapheme, what represents that sound? Once that is done, then we want to move on to the visual portion of the drill. So the visual portion of the drill, I am simply moving through cards with graphemes and asking the students to tell me the sound that it makes. So this would be done in a particular order, and while here is my stack of cards that I would be using, I might only be using a few of these to start off with. I want to begin with what the student knows and add one a week. One, and hopefully in a week's time the student grasps the new concept. We might have to go longer. It depends on the student, but ideally it's one new concept a week. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Hold the card. Card B says B. And I would place the card on the blending board, which we'll be using in a little bit. N says N. E says Eh. R says and I want to keep that short, full stop. I want to correct students if they say R, just like in B, if they say B, I want to keep it short, full stop, because, for example, in the word rat, it's rat, not r-at, rat. So we want to make sure that students are pronouncing the sounds as clearly and distinctly as possible. F says F. F. All right. Now, let's say we've gone through all the letters that the students know. All right, this is the beginning of the 3-part drill. We start off what the students know, reviewing the concept. Okay. Now, next we would move on to blending. And I would do this taking cards off to have them reading a few different blended nonsense words. Sometimes an actual word will show up, and I will ask students to give me a thumbs up to let me know they recognize a real word, thumbs down to let me know they recognize that this is not a real word. Also thumbs down if it sounds like a real word, but it's not spelled right. We pay attention to that. So how we use the blending board, I begin, f, n, f, n, fen, fen. So I start off breaking down each sound as I hold my hand over the card, and then I slide my hand across. I'll model this for the students just as I would model what I want them to say with the cards. And then as they get to practicing, ren, and we would go through the cards. Now, once we've completed this step of the 3-part drill, we would be moving on to by going through the sounds that we know. So without the cards. So we've done visual. Now we're moving on to auditory. Now, a lot of times blending will come after the auditory. Depends on the students, depends on how that works. Sometimes I will do the blending just like I did right after the visual. They go together very, very well. Now, auditory, just what it sounds like. We're working with students hearing the sounds. So I would say k. Students will tell me K says k. C says k. Now, auditory is lovely, but we can add a kinesthetic aspect to this. If you give the student a tray of sand, they can actually write, when I say k, C says k, and put a line down the center, K says k. Now you'll notice I have a little slash at the end. They'll write the letter with their finger, and then left to right, because we read left to right, they'll underline the letter with says k. C says k. And you would do that practicing maybe some phonemes that the students have been having trouble with. All right, so your 3 parts are the the visual, auditory, and blending, although I sometimes will actually do visual, blending, auditory. Depends on the class, mixing it up. Now, if your student is having a lot of trouble with their vowels, you can, and this is early on because we're focusing on the short vowel sounds, you can go through with your vowel cards, and I'll go ahead and use that E as my example again. And you would have all of your vowel cards, all right? And you might want to review with your students what each vowel says as their short sound. And if they need extra help, you can give them some hand motions to help them. A says eh, E says eh, I says I, O says ah, U says ugh, and you act like you're kind of punching yourself in the gut. Ugh. All right? And you can use these as you go through to help them identify. So then I would hold up my E, and my class would hopefully say, or my intervention students, E says eh. And maybe if they get stuck, I might give them that eh. Or I might say E says, and have them fill it in. You can scaffold this as you move through. Once they're getting better, you can move on from what the letter says, and you can give them some nonsense CVC words or previous to that, maybe some vowel consonants. So ag, ag. They have to pick out that a is the vowel sound and a is saying it. Or lat, lat. They have to pick out that vowel is in the center, and again, it's that a and a is saying it. So that might look like holding this up and asking them to give me the sound, or it might be the syllable is un. Un. I'm saying syllable instead of sound because I am in fact using a syllable. Un. And the students would have to recognize you. You says and that would be their response to me. All right, so when we're having trouble with decoding words, that's a really great place to start. Then, after that review drill and the vowel intensive, if the students are struggling with those short vowel sounds, we'd move on to teaching that new concept. So the nice thing with the Orton Gillingham scope and sequence is that it follows the recipe for reading scope and sequence. So let's say that we are up to a consonant digraph, CH. So I might start this with my students and say, Charity chases chickens. Charity chases chickens. What sound do you hear at the beginning of each word? Ch, ch. All right, and then we would go through and I would show them, after we identify that sound, I would show them the grapheme CH. And we would talk about the fact that it's a grapheme. A grapheme can be 2 letters because it's representing one sound. Ch. All right. And then we might take a look and see, do we have any objects in our room that their names start with this sound? Chair, child, and we would go through that list. All right, then after we go through, we might brainstorm some more words. So big anchor chart and actually brainstorm what these words mean. So we could get out a piece of paper, a big anchor chart, and we could chair, charm, now maybe one of your students recognizes, well, Christmas starts with CH. What we would do with that is we would create a little thought bubble on our anchor chart to put words that start with the right grapheme but make different sounds. And we would put that there and say, very good. You recognize that CH, but they don't work like that here. They actually work different because sometimes in English, graphemes have different jobs. So we would come up with this list of all of these different words, and we'd keep that anchor chart up all week as we work on this new skill of using CH. All right, so once we've done our formation of our anchor chart, then we would work on writing it. Now, older students, maybe you don't need to do this, but a student that is really struggling with their handwriting, you might. Younger students, you can use paper like this and actually put a house on it to show where, uppercase is going to start on the main level and go all the way up to the attic. Lowercase stays on that main level. And we would be able to show that with H, how that actually works. Capital H, 2 lines, and then we create that midline. You only need to do that if the student really does, if they're older and they need to work on their handwriting. Now, from there, we would work on our handwriting and we would move on. Next, we're going to dictate. When we dictate, I'm going to say words that use skills we already know. So for example, if my students know the word cat, I could use the word chat. They would know ch, at, and I would actually teach them something called pound and tap to help them with that. So what pound and tap is, just a quick overview. As I'm dictating, we would pound for the syllable. So chat. And then I use 3 fingers, ch, at, chat. I do that because each syllable has no more than 3 sounds in it. So ch, at, chat. And that's going to help them write out ch, at, and then they can write the full word. Now, what I can do with this, let's say I have my list of words all ready to go. I can go ahead and create some scaffolding with sound lines. So if I'm introducing digraphs, before we start our dictation, my students would know sound lines that each sound fits on 1 line. So cat would be k, at, C-A-T. But I would teach my students, okay, do you see this wiggly line I just added? That wiggly line means that it's a digraph. So they would know, if they see this, that it's a digraph. So I have a list of words, and they've got this digraph line here, and I say, okay, chat. They chat, ch, at. So they know this is going to be that consonant digraph. And they will be able to write that out. And then we always have them write the word afterwards. Put it all together. All right, so that is the main idea. Now, you can, especially for younger students, start off with just the 1-word dictation. As students develop more ability, or with older students, you can add in sentences with the dictation as well, so that they can build up their listening skills and build up their writing skills. This is also going to help them with their reading, because think of it as working backwards. If you can write the word, you can read the word. So they'll be more easily able to identify a lot of these words as they write them more. So we're exposing them to these concepts, helping them to read. Now, that about covers the mainstay of what we would be doing. But another concept that we can use is, let's say that a student is a little bit more advanced, and what they're having trouble with is multi-syllable words. They're really, really struggling. That's where the biggest problem is. They're not sure where to break it up. And honestly, that's not going to be a surprise because a lot of students, you know, this isn't necessarily explicitly taught. We expect students to really just pick it up. So what we can teach them is syllabication. Now, let's start off with the word sunlight. Okay. Now, we have the word sunlight. How do I teach a student who's really struggling with compound words how to read this? Well, here is how. Now, there's a little bit of a different for different type of syllables, but we're just going to take a look at the first one that we learn. Okay? Now, let's take a look. Well, first thing we need to do is find our vowels because each syllable is going to have a vowel in it. So I have a vowel here and I have a vowel here. And then I'm going to draw a bridge between. And then I'm going to look up. Now what I have an N and an L in between my two vowels. I only have two consonants there. Consonant, consonant. So I'm just going to cut that in half. So that tells me this is a closed vowel because it's closed in. Now this one's a little bit trickier, but we'll get there. So sun, n, sun. I can break it down just like that. Now for this one's trickier because it should be, right? Short vowel sound because it's closed. So we have to make sure we know the word light before we know that this is going to say its name and be the long for light. So there's a lot of things we can do and working through different steps with our students. So we want to make sure that we really take care to review and see where students are and use appropriate techniques at each step. Once a student's able to decode the words, then they're going to be able to take in the information. And once they're able to take in the information, then we can really work on building a more detailed comprehension, making inferences, asking questions, finding the main idea, right? But if you can't decode the words and then put it all together to find meaning, you're never going to get to that point. So as far as an intervention set for elementary school, this is a really great place to start, and it has a lot of wonderful tools. Thank you so much for spending the evening with me. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.